Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vanlife and Chill. My name is Forrest Stevens. I'm your host, and today I'm talking with Frank, who I just filmed a van tour with not that long ago, but he's driven across the country and has experienced more since I talked to him last. And we get into a lot of the reasons why he got into van life in the first place and some of the benefits that he's found and some of the peace that he's found with living this lifestyle that connects him more to nature and more to himself.
My name is Francois. I'm a modern day nomad. I'm 31 years old, and uh, yeah, what you see is what you get.
Can you tell me a little bit about your van life experience?
The van life experience has been pretty uplifting for me in many ways. It's really shown me what I'm capable of, what how adaptable I am. It showed me how to um, really slow it down and get back to the core roots of what matters. And for me, that's just how I carry myself in the world.
Interesting. So how long have you lived in a van for?
I'm coming up on 4 years now.
Okay.
March 8th will be the 4 year van anniversary.
Nice. So what got you originally interested in living in a van?
It was honestly a YouTube video, but I want to say the YouTube video is what like pushed me to like do it. It wasn't van life necessarily at first. It was just like the I was always into like the alternatives. Like I was building tree houses when I was a kid, building little forts in my room with like an underbed. It was like a bunk bed, and then underneath was like it was just I was always into like living in a different, like sleeping in a different way. I always experimented growing up, but I would say that the tiny home movement really made me aware that there is another way, but the actual like van life was 100% a YouTube video that I was like, oh my God, this is it. People live in vans. It's like, that's genius.
Interesting.
And within a month after that, the van was in my possession.
And what was your first van?
It was the van I'm in right now. It's a 1998 Chevrolet Express van.
So you've had the same van, but in the tour that we filmed together a few months ago, you mentioned that it's gone through a few different iterations. So maybe tell me a little bit about what it was like when you first got it and how you've developed it into a space that is comfortable for you now.
All it was just everything was stock. It had like the seats in it, had like a tube TV. Um, from the moment purchase to the moment leaving was, I want to say, 2 months, and a good month and a half I couldn't even like see the van because it was in another city, because I bought it in another city, parked it, and then went to live to the city where I was at because there wasn't enough parking. So eventually I was like, screw it, I'm going to get it, it's coming back with me, and I'm like, I'm doing this. And I just bought a sheet of plywood after taking out all the seats, made it very simple. Found, no joke, like dumpster dived a single mattress. Like while I was building this thing, the apartment I was at, I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect foam mattress. I gave it a good quick sniff, and I was like, let's go. Took a pallet, took it apart, made a little kitchenette, and that was it. Loaded the stuff I thought I needed, and I just hit the road. So there wasn't much thought for myself into it. It was just like, I'm a go-getter. I just wanted to immerse myself into it and just live it.
What was it like the first little while that you moved into the van? What was some of the changes that you experienced?
I would say that just in my heart, I felt that it was the right thing to do. And so I just followed that feeling. And it was actually a very uplifting experience for the first, I want to say, month. I would run into random people, and it was like a small affirmation of what I was doing was the right thing. And I even went as far as like starting a blog, and I wanted to raise awareness of there is a different way of living. You don't have to, rent or finance or mortgage or any of that. I was like, I want to raise awareness on this. So I went to a decal shop, and I told the owner like my whole story. I just wanted a big like hashtag Mully the van, so people could find the blog. So I slapped that on the back. Um, but rewind, like I went to see the lady at the store. She listened to my story, said, "Yeah, I'll make the decal for you." I went to pick it up after she notified me it was ready. And she said, "We're closed today, but I've taped it to the door. It's on us." She said, "Just get out there and do your thing." So it's just little affirmations like that within the first month, and it still happens now. That was really uh, reassuring.
Yeah, what a positive experience to have.
Very good. And I was, even in the first month, I was able to help one of my friends in a like in a house crisis. You know, he was in a place where it was either homelessness or, I was like, I can do something about this. So I offered him space in the van, and we shared the van for 30 days in Revelstoke, British Columbia.
Nice.
And so that was another, uplifting affirmation that what I was doing was indeed, for me, the right thing.
What was it like adjusting to the actual lifestyle of living in a van?
I guess I would say that for me, it was an easy transition based on my lived experiences, my choices in life. Uh, I would say it was an easy transition for me because I was always, out there adventuring. Like I'd load up a bag, I'd get on my bike, I'd go for an adventure. When I worked a 9 to 5 job on weekends, it was like we were gone backcountry canoe camping. So it was like thinking of what we needed and bringing it out and surviving for those, 3, 4 days. So jumping into the van, I was like, this is just like a long camping trip. So I loaded everything I thought I needed, and yeah, it was an easy transition for me.
And how about so that sort of sums up a little bit about the beginning kind of journey of your van life experience. How has it developed since then, and what's your van like now? Quick little interruption from today's podcast to announce the winner of the High Boost giveaway that I did for the past few weeks. Jason Headley, you are the winner. Congratulations. And thank you all to everyone who submitted their entries and who participated in the giveaway. I plan to do more of these in the future, as well as work with some sponsors just for ad placement and all that good stuff. Now, let's get back into the video. How has it developed since then, and what's your van like now?
In the beginning, I was kind of gung ho, didn't really care about anything. I was going to figure things out as they come. And then through the different changes of the seasons, I realized like I needed more sustainability in the winter, because it always, fall time came around. I was like, okay, it was kind of like I was in limbo. It's like, what am I doing? Am I doing this, or am I going to settle somewhere? So the first 2 years, settled in the winter. So temporarily rented some space from a friend. Second winter, came out to BC to do the ski resort, rented on the mountain. And then third winter was last winter, which I just went for it. I said, you know what, I'm not going to rent this year. I'm just going to go with the flow and trust that the universe has got my back. And sure enough, I got in contact with one of my old friends, and through chatting, he told me, he's like, there's a space in my driveway for you. I've got a plug in if you need it. So I happily took him up on that. And that's another thing I want to just take a second and say that van life has taught me to be more dependent on people. I feel like we're always so driven to be independent. Like I have my own money, I have my own space, I have my own food. When I think it's okay to be dependent on one another once in a while, because it's not until you're really stuck and you really have to ask somebody that you're like, this is uncomfortable. But the more you ask someone for help, or not even ask, or if they offer you the help, not to be proud and just be like, yes, you know what, I am going to take what you are offering me. It's been nice to be able to depend on people throughout this journey. And then we got ourselves on the fourth winter, which is right here, right now. I've got the little Chinese diesel heater, like I showed in the interview. It's a piece of junk, honestly. Like, I'm not lying. I'm not having a great experience with it. It's working, but it's like I don't even trust it. It's safe. It just sometimes it just doesn't start. But again, like, I'm in my best friend's space right now using his laptop, his internet for this podcast. And he's been kind enough to say, "Hey, Frank, shit hits the fan. This bedroom is yours." So that's cool.
That's nice. So once again, being able to kind of accept some help and rely on others, like you said, and that's such an interesting point because I feel like a lot of people get into van life for sort of the freedom of it and sort of the, I guess, a little bit of independence and sort of self-reliance, and sort of all I need is to fill up my van full of water and charge my batteries and I'm gone, you know? And it's that there is that aspect to it, but um I think you're right. I think as individuals and collectively we need to be able to accept help and ask for help more often, because everybody wants to help each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, well said.
So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about this, about living in the winter in your van, because so last winter you did live in the van, and what did you do to sort of prepare your van for that and prepare yourself for that experience?
Last winter was my first winter, and not gonna lie, I was nervous about it. I didn't know where I was gonna end up. Um, I ended up in what I thought was going to be the coldest, but it turned out to be a pretty mild winter in Ontario last year. But to prepare for that, what I did was I went to a U-Haul, like the big U-Haul kind of rental places. This was in Kelowna, and you could buy moving blankets, and those are nice. I was like, to me, I was like, that's like a little bit of an insulating factor. So I bought, I think, four of those, um, and I built like a blanket fort, like around the bed with a little cubby to go into it. And so the idea behind that was that, like, when I'm sleeping, my body heat would just keep that space relatively warm, and it did the trick. Honestly, it was amazing. Very depressing though. I would say by the second month, I was like, okay, like I'm ready to, because the blanket fort was just very invasive inside the space. The space is already small, and then you fill it with this box blanket. You know, so I was quick to like tear it down because I was like, I need to be able to see everything. The windows in the van for me are very important. But yeah, that's how I prepare myself. U-Haul moving blankets. I got a couple of space heaters, and I made sure that I accepted the offerings from my friends. These are all things I did to prepare.
And you didn't have the Chinese diesel heater in your van yet at that point, or?
At that point, no, and the van there was no insulation, nothing. So it was just like a shell with the bed and the necessities and the blanket fort with a couple of space heaters.
Wow, that's actually pretty amazing that you were able to handle that.
There was lots of days where I was hanging out with friends in their homes, but just as many days and time spent in the van by myself, journaling, and being creative with my outlets and whatnot. So yeah, it was an experience that I will never forget because I realized how adaptable we actually are as humans. It, I didn't even wear like a jacket for most of the winter. I wore my jacket maybe 5 times. Other than that, it was just like a nice thick wool sweater. But my body just adapted. We'd be standing outside and my friends would be shivering and I'd be just standing there like, good. And I was like, I wonder if this is because I like just put myself in, a different climate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we are very adaptable as a species for sure.
Good man. If you think about it, man, we go from our houses to our cars to our jobs without even like experiencing more than 15 minutes of cold. We could start our car and warm it up, and you just have to bear through that cold for a few seconds, and get in your car. But when it's the flip side, you end up going in a house and you're like, oh, I'm getting hot in here. So yeah, very interesting.
That is interesting. So when I saw your van, though, you didn't have the blanket fort set up. You had done some renovations and sort of improved your van quite a bit by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I had to do a complete gut because that's just what I wanted to do from the beginning. And all the hard work I had done in like all the carpentry in the year before just broke my heart, because it's like it's a waste of resources. I'm like, I was going through these weird phases in my mind. I'm like, am I just not content with what I have? Am I just blaming my surroundings for my problems? But then I came to realizing like this is my space, this is my nest, this is my, you know, I gotta make it comfortable. And like if I'm in here and I'm not happy, obviously it might be something inside of me, but I just have to make the space workable for me. So I just gutted the whole thing and I said, starting with insulation, and from there, whatever ideas came to mind, I just went with it.
And you did rock wool insulation in quite a bit. I mean, like anybody who's interested can watch the tour. I think you talk about it, but you built a frame sort of inside your van and then insulated in that, right?
Full like full bats of rock wool insulation, which are 4 inches thick. I just wanted to make sure that like the rig was ready to go. That I didn't have to like start thinking about what it was going to be like in November, December, January. Now it's just like I'm good.
Yeah, definitely. So what also you lifted up your van as well. That was like that's a pretty big upgrade. Maybe tell me about the importance of doing that.
For my van life experience, the importance of the lift and I guess the better tires was definitely just to get deeper and deeper into nature, because that's my main therapy is just getting out there in nature and just being with nature. If you give it a chance, you'd be surprised at like how many animals are very curious and they just approach you um, without fear. It's just an uplifting experience. So the idea was to get the van in a better state. That way I can get over some fallen trees, or I can go through some, little obstacles, or and yeah, so I just wanted to get out there in more remote areas where there's no cell service and just be. The first, I want to say 2.5, 3 years of traveling in the van was the traditional touristy spots, easy to access, off the pavement. But I wanted. It's almost never enough, but I needed more, and it's just nature for me, more nature.
Yeah, definitely. What have been some of the most memorable experiences that you've had in your van life journey so far?
Meeting a bunch of random people and having 6 people in the van, just like chilling out, like doing whatever we want in that moment. So just, I think the memorable moment is just seeing the people that are curious, like when they step into it and they're looking around and they talk about themselves and their dreams. That's memorable to me because it makes me feel like I'm doing just a little bit of something. I might be inspiring someone to chase their dreams, and if their dream is a 9 to 5, then go for it, man. Like I'm not saying um, your dream should be my dream. I'm saying that me living my life, I've seen it spark things in people, and that's super memorable for me. Yeah, and then just as an example, yesterday I was driving around and it was good views of the mountains, and it was like I had never seen them before. I couldn't believe it. So just what you're exposed to in terms of nature if you get out there. Those are just all the memorable things. Basically, all of it is memorable.
What do you think you've learned about yourself from living in a van?
I'm more patient than I ever thought I was. And that's for many reasons. Just the experiences that have come with van life, sharing, the van with a cat. You open the door and you don't have your guard up and he's out, and you got to be at a certain place for a certain time, and you're like, oh my God, just letting go of like, hey, whatever it is that I'm said to be at a certain time for, it can wait. I just gotta, you know, go hang out with Sunny, get him back to the van. But an older version of me would have been like, the cat would have jumped out, and I would have been like, just angry. I would have got angry that the cat's making me late for the thing, when really it's like, so I've learned that I can change. Anybody can change. I've learned that I'm more than capable of changing uh, my mindset, my way of living.
It sounds like also like you're kind of more present as well. Like you're just kind of like dealing with the task at hand.
Yeah, rolling with the punches, so to speak. I used to work as a barista in a government building in Ottawa prior to being a vanner. And a lot of the customers, like, I told them exactly what I was doing. And they're like, oh my God, like, what are you going to do if this happens? What are you going to do if this happens? I said, you know what? Like, figure that out if it comes. Like, I'll cross that bridge when it gets here. So today's the future we worried about yesterday. It's not that bad after all.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of our fears are just made up in our minds. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about you and maybe see if your upbringing had anything to do with you living in a van now. So yeah, I'm just curious, like, what was your upbringing like, and do you think it had anything to do with you living in a van now?
That's a deep question that I've honestly never considered. At one point in the van journey, I reflected on like my the grander part of my life, and I think I went too deep in your question. But I'm thinking of like the specific time where I looked at my life as a grand, and I looked at, like you said, building tree houses, doing carpentry with my grandfather, um, helping my dad fix the brakes on the vehicle, and then getting into school and getting into like vehicles, and then out of high school, building a car, and just like mechanically, it just, I looked at the broad of my life. I was like, I did everything in my life for living in a van. Like I'm my own mechanic, I'm my own carpenter, I'm my own therapist. So it's like, yeah, I guess like my upbringing and my experiences in life might have subconsciously guided my life to van life, but specifically, I do not know.
Well, it seems like you've learned the skills, and I mean, obviously, I mean, you've been doing this for 4 years. It's obviously a conducive lifestyle for kind of who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, what are some of your personal beliefs that help bring you up when you're feeling low?
I am enough. Just that simple thing, like I am enough when I'm low. To add to that, just I get outside, breathe that fresh air. It's something I do. I would definitely say when I find myself kind of in that fuzzy area in the head, kind of can't focus on one thing, or there's just too many thoughts, I open the book and I just start writing them down. Instead of letting them float around in here, write them down. Um, yeah, so those are some of the things I do when I'm feeling down. Other times I just fully embrace it. Other times I just fully embrace the feelings of whatever it is I'm feeling. Like, not do something to avoid it. Maybe be with it first, and then make an informed decision on getting myself out of that state by journaling, outdoor therapy, or yeah.
So, a couple questions about sort of your van life experience more specifically. Again, this is one question I feel kind of obligated because it's a common question people have. But what do you do for a toilet and shower?
In all honesty, number ones are the easiest. I have a funnel that just goes right to outside. A funnel in a tube goes outside. Number two, it's all about where I'm at, what time of day. If I'm just waking up and it's like, man, I got to go now, without shame, like I'll do what I have to do in the van. I'll use like the Lugaloo. It's got like it started with the Lugaloo. It's the pail with the toilet seat. Just put a plastic bag in there, do your business, wrap it up, throw it out. I've even gone as far as like ditching the Lugaloo and just putting the plastic bag right on the ground and saying, you know what? Like I'm an animal. I need to do this business, and this is the best way I can think of doing it right now. So it's just like dealing with it. Showers. Um, I went to the hot springs yesterday. Does that count?
Oh yeah, that's better than a shower.
There we go. So usually once a month, I get out to the hot springs now that I'm in BC. Um, but I just got my spots, man. I got some friends that are just super welcoming and generous, and I just truck stops are some of the best showers I've ever had.
And you mentioned in your tour as well that you kind of go without a little bit more than maybe the average person.
I would say, yeah, absolutely. The first time I went, 3 weeks without a shower, I was like, reflecting on my life. I was like, is this okay? Is this is this okay? And I reflected. I said, you know what? Me not showering doesn't change like who I am in the world, right? If I don't shower and it gets to the point where it's noticeable and someone's uncomfortable with it, that's not my problem. Uh, Obviously, in a workspace, that was an interesting kind of situation. I would say I even got fired as a van lifer because of my personal hygiene choices.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've had one employer buy me deodorant, and it was like she was super nice about it. Like I told her why I don't use those kind of products, and she went out of her way to get like a natural product and brought it in. So I took it with open arms. But let's just say I didn't last 3 months. But if I reflect on like my performance in the job, it's like I was doing the job, but I think there was just some things that just didn't work for the employer, which is fine. But yeah, definitely gone a long time without showers. Uh, but I've gone as basic as filling a sink with a little bit of hot water and giving it a rinse. It as in the private areas, the spots that kind of get soiled quickly. And then, baby wipes, you clean the little crevices here and there. It just gives you a chance to get even more in tune with your own body.
What kind of areas do you find to park at usually?
The easiest ones on the side of a street, in a parking lot, uh, municipal parks, beach parking lots. And I'm that guy that does not give a shit what the sign says. If it's an empty parking lot and it says no overnight parking, to me, it's like, this makes no sense. You know? So I think there's other places where I do give a shit. Like if it was like downtown metro kind of setting, definitely wouldn't mess with those parking guys because they're serious about their jobs. And I definitely don't want parking tickets.
Right.
But then you get the odd time where you find like that super epic spot that you just can't stop getting pictures, and you just can't stop thinking about it when you're parked in that parking lot. You're like, oh, I wish I was in that spot. Really, as long as I'm getting some rest, I'm good. I'm happy.
And what do you do to make money while traveling and on the road?
Currently, I'm unemployed and collecting EI. And if you don't know what EI is, it's employment insurance. Uh, Other than that, the jobs just show up when needed. Last winter, I was getting low on funds. Like we're talking, I had $1,000 to my name, insurance coming out like the next month, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Started applying for some jobs, got some interviews. Next thing you know, my best friend calls me. He's like, "Yeah, I want you to come work for me." So jumped on that, saved some money. I was very conscious of what I did with my money and how I spent my money in order to be able to survive, X amount of months without having to worry. But right now I'm cruisy with an automatic paycheck and I have to do nothing. But I'm going tree planting and fruit picking in the season to come. So more focused on the piecework. Some kind of you get paid for what you put in. So that's what I kind of like because I've worked some jobs where I've put in a lot and it goes unnoticed in so many ways. And it's not about the pay really; it's just about the recognition. So putting myself in a workplace where I'm recognized is a must for me.
That sounds good, man. You mentioned parking in places that had some signage. So I'm curious if you've ever gotten the knock before.
Oh yeah, I've gotten a knock 3 times, 4 times maybe. I would say the first 2 times was me testing, where I can and can't park. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go into a federal park and it says like no parking from this time to this time. And I'm like, let's see what happens. Um, and an officer came by and, he's just doing his job, doing his rounds, said, you guys got to move on. Another time it was just like no overnight parking sign was there. Officer came in, just wanted to make sure, check in, and didn't say anything, didn't ask us to leave. So I would say the knocks have been good experiences. And then I've had like times where I was napping, no joke for us, napping like just the most blissful sleep. And then one of my friends knocks, and I'm like getting up. I'm like, oh shit, like super weird. I'm like, it's just my buddy. But those have been the funny ones.
That's cool. I mean, your van is so recognizable too. If you park anywhere where people, I'm sure they would come and say what's up. That's one part I really liked about. I mean, we lived in Victoria in our camper for a couple months, and our friends would like see us parked in a parking lot and just come by, and we'd hang, impromptu chill session for a few hours. That was awesome. It was so much fun.
I love that. Yeah. And sometimes it happens like you said, just at random, just not expecting it, and you just like I think those are fun moments for me. 'Cause it's like when I have to plan something ahead, it's almost like, oh, you're putting so many like expectations or like I don't know. There's just so much pre-thought that goes into hanging out, and then when it just happens, it's like, oh, the spur of the moment.
Where do you think you'd be right now if you hadn't gotten into the van?
Shit, could be dead for all I know. But I honestly probably in debt. I would probably maybe be like a year or two into a mortgage. I don't know. It's just like it's almost like when the van happened. It's like like the lifestyle. When I got introduced to it, it was just like I just forgot about everything else.
What advice do you have for somebody that's thinking about getting into van life?
Embrace it. Like really tune in with like yourself. I would say even like go as far as like meditate on it to see how you feel when you think of like the van life. And that would be the advice. Yeah, just check in with yourself. Uh, talk to people who are doing it, and be able to tell the reality from the lies. Hopefully, you can. Hopefully, if you do have an interest in van life and you're looking out there, hopefully you're looking at the realistic aspects of it, and of course, looking at you know the glamorous end of it because that's why you're doing it. You're doing it because you want to have that kind of feeling of blissful perfectness. So chase that, but inform yourself, I would say. Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to talk and touch on the idea of minimalism, and if that was interesting to you prior to getting into the van, or if sort of, and maybe just the process of having to sort of minimize your possessions to live in such a small space. What was that process like for you?
The process of, living with all the possessions I used to to now isn't very different. It's just I've been able to sift out the ones that I actually need. And man, I would say that even like minimizing kind of led me to van life. So going through like, I think I minimized before the even the idea of van life, because it was that wonderful Netflix documentary with those two gentlemen. I think it was called like The Minimalist or something. And I watched that and I found that very fascinating. And it made me reflect on like my own life in terms of the relationship I have with material goods. And yeah, I think just accumulating so many things over and over the years to the point where I had to move apartment because I needed more space for the things. And then getting into that apartment was a little bit more per month. And then that's when I started doing the math, doing calculations, like what goes into this monthly rent and the life that I live right now. And I was shocked at how many hours I had to work just to cover rent. And I was like, this is making no sense. And then I was on my way to work one day and I looked up at the apartment building, and I'll never forget this. I got like full body chills. Huge apartment building. And I'm like, that is someone's dream. Someone has realized their dreams and they have all these people living in their building and they're just cashing in. Whether their dream was to own real estate or to make cash money heroes, you know. But I looked at that apartment building and I said, when am I gonna live for my dreams? Like I'm going to work right now to put realize this guy's dream. So I had to put my foot down and say, I gotta realize my own dream and live my own life the way I want. So just all those transitions from like having all those things to moving in a place to house those things and then doing the math. And then that's when I was like, I'm getting rid of some shit because I don't want to have to pay for this apartment. And I had literally just signed a 1 year lease. There was a wonderful woman who took it over. I don't know who in their right mind would want to pay $1,200 a month for. No, I can't anymore. Someone else can, but not me.
That's awesome. What's next for you, Frank?
Your guess is as good as mine. But if I had to say, like my goals and ambitions is definitely to develop something that's more of permanence. But I have this crazy idea of not doing it the traditional way. Like I just want to go out there, use the land that's available to us and the resources without, you know, molesting the area that I'm going to use. And I don't want to, I don't want to pay like land taxes. I don't want to do these other things that are kind of standardized just in order to build a house. So yeah, I think what's next is just getting out there and exploring another avenue of building, and that would be building in nature, with nature.
That sounds really exciting, man. And where can people follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at the Golden Mullet.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing today, man. I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Hey, it's my pleasure, and I'm really glad you invited me on, and I wish you the best of luck with all the other interactions you're going to have with the van lifers. And I definitely have to say that I'm looking forward to it. I'm just in the middle of the interview with you and Jesse. Him and I have been contacted a little bit, and I'm excited to see what he's got to say, and I'm excited to see what else you find out there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thanks everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check this out on the audio podcast platforms and all that stuff as well. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Just thank you guys. And really, if you've come this far, I really appreciate you listening to the whole thing. And hopefully it was helpful in some ways. We release new episodes every single Thursday. And if you've come this far, you must have a serious interest in van life. So you got to join this van enthusiast community that I've got going. First month is totally free. If you don't enjoy it, you can cancel at any time. And on there, I offer one-on-one support for your van build process as well as beyond into your van life experience. So consider joining, consider becoming a part of that community. Links in the description. Thanks everyone, and until next time.